What's up, guys? Welcome to Show Me Your Rig episode number 10. This is the series where you guys get to show off your custom-built PCs and compete for a very modest prize at the end of the season, which this, in fact, is. This is the last episode of Season 1 before we go to our voting round. But that's not to say that you can't keep submitting your PCs. So make sure that if you're interested in getting on the show and competing for Season 2, this is the email address right here. Check it out. Send me an email with your name, the computer specs, what you use it for, and of course, as many pictures as you can reasonably fit into an email. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. Episode 10 coming at you right now. Ready to dive into custom water cooling but unclear about what parts you might need? Check out Thermaltake's new M360 Plus RGB kit. Featuring a D5 pump res combo, 16mm hard tube, Pacific C Pro fittings, and the best RGB implementation on the market, the M360 Plus fits all mainstream Intel and AMD sockets and is fully expandable as your system evolves. Check out the link in the video description to learn more. Okay, so before we get into our first submission for this episode, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of before we moved on. So this episode is actually going to feature 3 different systems, all of which I think are pretty much not necessarily in need of improvement or tweaking or anything like that. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to be able to have some extra time to talk to you guys. Now, considering that I've been receiving an increasing number of submissions every time we post one of these, for instance, this episode alone, I got over 120 submissions. Going through them is time consuming. Don't be discouraged if you guys submit your PC and it does not get picked. There's a lot of competition. People really want to be featured on the channel, and I appreciate that. I like that everybody's engaged. But, you know, if you didn't get picked this time, that's not to say you wouldn't get picked again if you maybe make a few changes, resubmit your system. So don't be afraid to do that and send in your system. Tell me what you have changed, because I do read every email that comes through. I can't respond to every email that comes through, but I do read them. Also, keep in mind that there are some things about your submission that are going to make it stand out a little bit more. Number 1, submissions with only one photo, I automatically cannot feature. There's just not enough information there. I can't get different angles on things. So one photo is not going to cut it. Make sure that the photos that you are sending in are of decent quality. Cell phone photos are fine. But if I can't see something because there's a huge reflection on your side window, that's really going to discourage me from choosing you to be on the show. So send a photo with your system, all the lights on, side panel on, sure, but make sure that at least some of the photos that you're sending in include side panel off, maybe different angles of your internals, showing off different things that you want to make sure that I notice about your system. Third thing, make sure that you're sending me your computer specs. I get a ton of submissions that I would love to feature because the systems look great, but all they have is a name and some photos. And again, that's just not going to cut it. I need some more information there, something to be able to talk about on the show. The fourth thing, the more interesting your use case, the more likely I am to pick your system, even if it's not necessarily pimped. I'd like to feature different kinds of systems on this channel, even up to servers and things of that nature, as long as the story behind it is interesting, the configuration looks like something that we could really dive into and figure out what's going on in there and how you built the system and why you built the system that way. So corner case use scenarios, not necessarily something that people might see all the time. I'm kind of drawn to those. So even if your system doesn't look great, but you have a cool use for it, send in. I'd love to take a look at it. The fifth thing, I've been featuring a lot of water-cooled builds on the channel in this series, and that's because they look really cool. But water-cooled or not water-cooled, it does not matter. Send in whatever you have, air-cooled, AIO, custom loop, whatever you got, send it in. I'll take a look at it. I do want to make an announcement for Season 2 that's going to be starting probably next month. I'm still going to be featuring water-cooled and non-water-cooled builds in that season. However, the vote at the end of the season will be no custom loops. It will be only air-cooled or AIO systems. So this season, we've been featuring a lot of really cool water-cooled systems, and likely the 3 finalists are going to be all custom loop. Next season, I want to change that. I still want to feature the custom loop systems, but I think it's only fair that maybe next system we do the vote and give the prize to a non-water-cooled system, just to kind of balance that a little bit. And the last thing I want to touch on really briefly, I get a lot of photos of setups with a lot of different angles of setups. They're nice, and I appreciate them, and I do include usually a photo of a setup if somebody sends it in to me. But this isn't Setup Wars. I don't need all the photos of your setup. I don't need your cable management under your desk. So don't feel like you have to include that information. I mean, if you want to, sure, that's fine. But that's not what we're really going for here. We're really talking about the tower itself. Okay, so that's all for housekeeping. Check out the merchandise store if you want to pick up a t-shirt like this or a hoodie or something like that. I have a new Patreon. You can find that down below. If you really like what we're doing here, you get involved, become a part of our community. And let's get into our first system right now. First up, somebody who calls himself Disembodied Soul and did not send me his name. So, Disembodied, thank you. I don't know how you sent in a submission if you are disembodied. However, I appreciate the effort. He writes, "Good morning. Currently my rig is entirely air-cooled. I'd like to get into water cooling, but I'm entirely a noob at it. If you could recommend a good beginner kit, I'm all ears." Well, Disembodied, or Mr. Soul, if that's what you'd like. I am currently doing a series on the channel called Water Cooling for Beginners. Episode 2 of which will be out shortly, I think next week. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, so thank you in advance for taking a peek at my rig. The specs we got here. So this is a Phanteks P400 with 5 Arctic 140mm PWM fans. CPU is a Ryzen 7 2700X at 4.2 GHz. Cooling it is a CryoRig H5 Universal, and that is sitting in an ASRock X370 Taichi motherboard. For memory, we've got a 16 gig kit of G.Skill Trident Z at 3200. GPU is an EVGA GTX 1080 Ti. Power supply is a Seasonic 750. Some Corsair keyboard and mouse peripherals, and an LG 27-inch 4K FreeSync monitor. All right, well, let's dive in. This is a nice picture of your setup. It's small, but it's simple and clean, and I like it. And you are watching one of my videos, so good for you. But let's get into the system, because the reason that I picked this is because this is a really nice example of a very simple, very clean, very aesthetically pleasing air-cooled build. Now, I just did an air-cooled build for my monthly build series, and it was pretty blingy. It had a lot of RGB action going on, but you don't need that. This is a great example of something that goes completely the other direction. There are, there is some lighting in here, but this is basically a black and white build. Everything in here matches. The cooler top is white, the fans are white, the cables are white. Then you have a black and white case with the black and white motherboard and black and white memory. Everything looks really tight, really neatly done. We have down here, the cables are routed really well. I like how you've hidden basically everything. There's nothing that sticks out. There's nothing that really shouts to me like, hey, this was done without care. All the components, I think, were picked to match and to work well together. The 2700X and a 1080 Ti, great combination. I mean, the only thing that I would maybe recommend is if you wanted to get some better combs for your cables to kind of wrangle them in a little bit better, because they look like they're getting a little out of line over here. But I mean, that is not even something that I'd worry about if I were you. This system looks really good and really tight. And like I said, the systems that we're featuring today don't need a lot of help. So I just want to show off a nice air-cooled build. This is a great system, and Mr. Soul, Mr. Disembodied Soul, you did a really good job. So thank you very much for sending it in, and on to the next one with somebody who actually sent me their name. Next up, Miguel G. He writes, "Hi, I love your channel. I hope you like my rig." End. So thank you very much for being concise. We've got a Thermaltake View 71 Tempered Glass Edition, housing an Intel i7 8700K and an Asus Maximus 10 Formula motherboard. Nice combination for sure. We got 4x8 GB kit of G.Skill Trident Z RGB memory, Asus Strix GTX 1080 Ti, a Samsung M.2, 500 gig Samsung M.2 drive, Seagate Barracuda 2.5-inch hybrid hard drive, Corsair RM1000 power supply, and CableMod custom cables. So one of the reasons I wanted to feature this is because this has a lot of custom work done to it, and I always appreciate the time and effort that goes into this planning. And one of the problems that I have with this series of Thermaltake cases is all of this open space, all these gaps back here that you can see through after your build is done, and you can see, you know, messy cables or drives or whatever else is mounted back there, and sometimes it doesn't look the prettiest. And Miguel said, I'm not having any of that, I'm fixing this myself. So he went with a full custom acrylic plate, and this is pictures of the build process. You can see the power supply in here, and the Singularity Computers pump reservoir, and these are their ethereal mounts in here as well. So this is kind of like leading up to, boom, it's all done. This looks awesome. This is a great custom job. I really like the way this is blacked out and covers all of those holes, and you don't have to worry. It cleans things up so much inside this Thermaltake case, and you get the blue and yellow theme going on, which again is pretty unique. You don't see a lot of that. I've never done a system blue and yellow, although now that I see this, maybe I will. But I do have a question about the cables. Not that they look bad, but I'm curious as to why you went with green. Is it because blue and yellow make green, or you just like green? I'm curious. You know, your choice, but I'd like to know why you went with that color instead of a blue or a yellow or some combination of both. But I mean, everything in here is so coordinated. We got yellow here, yellow up top, blue on the bottom. All these runs, these tubing runs, look immaculate. I don't see any issues with them at all. No kinking, no, you know, bubbling or folding of the tubes or anything like that. All the bends are really tight. You got some cables sticking out down here from the shroud, but they have to, because they have to plug into the motherboard. So don't blame me for that. I got some cables up top here that, again, you can't really do anything with. They kind of need to be there. And they feed the front fans and probably the front I/O. And when the case is closed, I bet you don't even see them at all. So really well done system. You did a killer job on this, man. Congratulations. I don't really have very much to say, and I doubt you'd want to hear my advice anyway, because it looks like you know what you're doing. On to the last one. Thanks, Miguel, for sending it in. Okay, so this last one, I think you guys are really gonna like. The photos he sent me are super high quality, but they're all in this orientation. They're all vertical, so stick with it. It's gonna be worth it, I promise. He writes, "Hey Brian, love your channel. My name is Patrick. I'm from the Netherlands, and here is the latest creation I made. The name of it is Blue Sparkle. It will fit when you see the pictures, okay? I made a custom motherboard plate for it so I could do whatever I want with it. So we got a Lian Li PC011 ROG Edition, an i7-7820X with an Asus X299 TUF Mark I motherboard. He's got 8 by 4 gigabytes of Dominator Platinum 3000 megahertz memory, Founders Edition GTX 1080, an EVGA 850 V2 power supply. For storage, he's got a Corsair MP500, 2 500 gig Samsung 850. He just says 850. I don't know if it's Evo or Pro. And then a 2 terabyte Western Digital Black. And all the fans are Be Quiet Silent Wings. He does talk about some of the water cooling stuff. So some Bits Power fittings, EK blocks, EK pumps, Singularity reservoir, and EK radiators. All right. Well, let's dive in, man, because this is a phenomenal looking build inside one of my favorite cases, the PC011. And man, just take a look at that. Just take a look at that. I told you these systems this week don't need any help. But man, this took some serious time. And a lot of people, when I do my water-cooled systems and I use 90-degree fittings, they ask me why. And first of all, you know, it's my preference. I like it that way, so I'm going to use them. But second of all, I think that it makes the system look so neat, so precise, because all the bends are exactly the same. So especially when you get something like this, where all the bends not only are the same, but all the tubes are lining, this lines up perfectly. Let's see if I get a better shot of that. Yep. I don't know. How about this shot? So like everything lines up perfectly across. These line up perfectly across. Everything runs parallel. I mean, the vertical tubes are perfectly perpendicular. The color scheme matches perfectly with everything else in the system. This system is on point. I really like the Singularity reservoir in here. Again, matches with the color scheme. You've got Be Quiet fans, which are basically one of the best fans on the market for silence and airflow. No RGB on them. You don't need RGB on them. They are just all black. They look, I don't know, good, I guess, without being gaudy or anything like that. And I have more photos. All right, so here's some more photos. Sorry, I lost you there for a second. But yeah, just an awesome job by Patrick. Nothing in here that I would change. Literally nothing. He's got the pass-throughs going through to the back. I mean, I guess I wonder what the back side of your tray looks like. But man, this is awesome. And I don't know. It's very rare that I see a system come through on Show Me Your Rig submissions, and I'm just like, wow. I need to stare at this thing for a minute. Fantastic job. Can't say enough good things about it. Way to go, Patrick. Thanks for sending it in. I appreciate being able to see this kind of a build, and I think the rest of the viewers do too. So that's it for episode 10, season 1 of Show Me Your Rig. Next episode of Show Me Your Rig will not be in a month. Usually I'm doing these once a month. The next episode is going to be where I choose the 3, or my favorite 3 systems that I featured on the program, and put it to you guys for a vote for who wins that $100 Amazon gift card. And that is probably going to be coming in a week or 2 or something like that. So be on the lookout for that. But after that, as I said, we're going to be starting season 2. We're going to be featuring more systems. Make sure this email address up here is in your address book. If you want to send in your system, that's how you do it. Information, pictures of your system. What do you use it for? Your name would be good. But more pictures are better, so keep those submissions coming. And I appreciate everybody really enjoying this program. I hope you guys liked season 1, and we're going to keep this rolling into season 2. So get subscribed if you are not. Hit that like button down there, and see you guys next time.